talking and tweeting business in Torbay and South Devon. This is the TorbayHour radio show.
So, good evening, welcome along again. It is Monday night, which means that just after 8 o'clock, it's time for the TorbayHour radio show. It's a special one tonight because we are on location as well. Not obviously right here now.
Well, we're not.
But we have a team out and about. The Tweet Up is happening. If you are listening at Dot's Pantry this evening, a very good evening. Just tell us what the cakes are like.
Oh, cake.
I know.
I miss you.
All the usual fun on the show tonight. So we've got our featured account coming up on that. We've got the 140-second pitches too. And if you want to get in touch, you know the drill. You need to use Twitter. It is the easiest way. The phone is available. Email is available. studio@themusicmill.co.uk. But Twitter, the details are...
#TorbayHour or at Torbay_hour.
Easy as that. So if you want to get in touch, if you've got a question you would like an answer to, feel free to get in touch. Last week we had a whole load of questions that came in during the show, which we were able to get answers to, which is great.
Yeah, that was we had a successful week last week.
I like that. Has the week been good for business in the Bay, in South Devon?
Yeah, lots of things happening, lots of things going on, lots of people promoting what they're doing, and lots of things going on behind the scenes from what I hear as well. So it's all good.
Okay, if you've got any exclusive news. Last week we brought you exclusive news about what's going on in Brixfest. So if you have anything which you would like to tell Torbay and South Devon about, this is the forum to do it as we continue our talk about business in the area through until 9 o'clock tonight. So without further ado, I think we should probably do some...
Featured accounts with the Works Torbay. Flexible, affordable workspace. A new way of working and doing business.
Okay, now the featured account, it's your chance to talk about you, it's talk about your business, what you do, where you do it, and who you are. If you would like to be one of our featured accounts, then get in touch with the guys during the week, and you never know, it could be you next week. Now, this week, big welcome to the show to Silver Goose. It's Andrew Thomas. Good evening, Andrew.
Good evening, Rick.
Good evening. So, Silver Goose, where are you? You're a restaurant, aren't you?
Yes, my wife and I have just opened a new restaurant in Torquay, in the northern suburbs, so to speak, St Mary Church.
The northern suburbs. I like that. Just outside the city centre.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, the sprawling metropolis that is St Mary Church. So what on earth brought you to... Because this is a new venture into the world of being a restaurateur for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, my wife and I were both self-taught at what we do. I've been a food photographer in recent years and an advertising photographer for... about 30 years now.
Wow, that's a bit of a jump, isn't it, from being a photographer? And
yes.
This is one thing actually, because when you always look at photographs of food, and the reality is radically different from what arrives on your plate.
Everybody says that. Everybody thinks that a roast joint of pork is covered in motor oil or something to make it go from. I'll tell you what. Is because the photographers want to eat the food, okay?
Right.
So it's most important that it's all absolutely delicious. Otherwise, I'm not interested in photographing it.
So there's the old adage, isn't there? Never trust a skinny chef. It's similar true for a food photographer.
That's true of me, yeah.
So how on earth, what brought you to wanting to open a restaurant?
Well, it's something that friends and family do. Oh, you two ought to open a restaurant, and although those are just kind words which have resulted from supper they've had or something like that, I had an accident in 2008, which meant that I really wasn't able to do the kind of photography I was doing anymore. I was in a wheelchair for about 9 months. And the thing about food photography is it's tabletop. And so therefore, it was something I could do. And we were living in France, in western France, in the Cognac area, which of course is well known for wild mushrooms and truffles and goose and duck and so on. It's a very, very interesting cuisine down there. And I found myself doing photography for an American publisher of some of the great chefs of that region, particularly chefs attached to the great cognac houses like Remy Martin and Courvoisier and Hennessy and so on.
I tell you what, there's something about the way that you say that which I just couldn't do justice to. I struggle with Stella Artois, but there you go. So you had a great place to learn the craft then.
Absolutely, and these guys were preparing wonderful dishes for me to photograph for the book, And in most cases, they had apprentices at their shoulder watching exactly what they were doing, which is another reason why the food was prepared properly and to be tasted as well. And so naturally, I joined the queue and got to taste all these wonderful dishes. And one thing about these French chefs, they did not feel the slightest bit threatened by an English photographer, okay? So they were fairly free with their, what otherwise would have been secrets. So I was able to extract some very useful information if I found a dish particularly delicious about exactly precisely how it was done. And remained in email contact with them later, and they have revealed some great tricks to me. So that it was a very good way to learn.
So it's kind of behind enemy lines food photography.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now the food, I'm guessing in your restaurant then is French cuisine.
Well, not really, no. I'm not, as I mentioned, classically trained. There's an advantage in that because you can discover things. You know, you can just by chance or breaking the rules or whatever, because you don't know what the rules are. You can bump into things which just happen to be delicious, and you find that your kids like them as well, and so you work on it, and then you have the courage to present it at a supper party with friends or something, and they all think it's delicious, and so these have now entered our current menu. But we're doing, I was determined to do a new take on our wonderful Devon crab. We've got a lovely dish with cockles and bacon. We're serving wild mushrooms with a lot of our dishes, including pigeon breast, and we've got summer goose. The thing about summer goose, it's not a fat goose. It's not one of the fattened up for Christmas and the New Year. A summer goose is grass-fed, runs around the meadows with the ducks and the ducklings, and is a delicious eating bird. And there are parts of the world where goose is eaten in very large numbers, particularly Southeast China, where they would never think of eating a goose that was older than about 12 weeks.
Oh, wow. Isn't it the goose is fairly...
What I've done is to organise with a local farm. Don't mind giving Dan a plug here, Sladesdown Farmer Burton. And he has entered this project with us and is providing us with 12-week goose.
Fantastic. Goose is fairly widely eaten in North America as well, I think, isn't it?
Yes, wild goose as well. Of course, they shoot them down out the sky and so on, but that tends to be rather tough eating. I wouldn't recommend that as a particularly gastronomic creature. But yes, this is true, and in many parts of Europe, in Hungary, in Germany, in Switzerland, there are goose feasts at different times of the year. And we, of course, have our own traditional goose feast here, although it is largely forgotten, which is the Feast of Michaelmas, which is the 29th of September, is Michaelmas Day. And traditionally, if you ate goose on the 29th of September, you would enjoy prosperity for the year. And because that's the third quarter day of the year, the tenant farmers would traditionally give a gift of a goose to the landlord, and hence the Tavistock Goose Fair and Nottingham and a lot of Goosey Gander and the nursery rhymes. And in Dickensian times, goose was very much associated with this particular feast. And of course it was a grass-fed goose that would be served at that time.
I know where I've been going wrong. The prosperity is just not coming on the back of that. So now when you watch TV, you watch programmes like Gordon Ramsay and stuff like that, and there's always this thing about the reality of running a restaurant is so radically different from the dream. How have you found running it? Is it what you imagined it would be?
You can never really imagine because you simply don't know. You know, it's a very different thing cooking for a dinner party, and you can say, you know, you've got a glass of wine in your hand anyway as the cook, and you turn around and say, oh, I'll be about another 15 minutes, you know, and just talk amongst ourselves kind of thing. Obviously, in a restaurant situation, it's completely different. So the kitchen has to be extremely well organised for the menu that's being served. The food has all got to be prepared properly, or prepped, as it's known. We have needed to call in a professional chef to help us with all these workflows and to organise ourselves here in such a way that we can get the food to been a steep learning curve, I can tell you.
I'll bet. So, are you kind of more front of house?
No, I'm not. I'm there with the fire and brimstone.
Oh, right.
I'm right there, yeah. My wife, Tanya, is front of house. Yes, she's the one who meets and greets and so on. So we're very much a husband and wife team in our little... Look, it's a very small restaurant. It's more like a little bistro, really. We don't want a 40-seat restaurant with a lot of staff running around and so on. We just don't want it to be like that.
Right.
It's a cafe during the day. In the evening, it magically transforms into a cozy little Art Deco with Tiffany lights and candles on the tables and so on. A nice cozy little venue, and that's what our customers say to us. They like sitting there, and it all feels, it's quirky, but it all feels right to them somehow. And then we just want to serve delicious food. That's it. We won't put anything on the table that's not delicious and also doesn't look good.
Now, bearing in mind that, I certainly haven't had my tea. I don't think Martin has had anything to eat tonight as well. There's certainly no strange smells coming from that side of the table. Can you tease me then? Talk me through an example of a menu if we were to come in and sit down tonight.
All right. Well, as a starter, you could have fresh Brixham crab. You would have white meat, as in a whole crab claw. There's a little salad on the side, which is white crab meat plus avocado plus pink grapefruit, which is made freshly for every order. We bake our own bread. We have a granary bread, which we bake in-house, so there'd be little toasted triangles of that to go with it. Oh. And there would also be, as well as a nice little micro-herb salad on the side, there would be a little dish of a Vietnamese fish sauce dressing, which is called nuoc mam, and it's got a very tiny little kick to it, but it's absolutely delicious with crab. Trust me on that. Okay?
I will do.
So that's the first thing.
Okay. Or should I be saying yes, chef?
No, not really.
Okay.
So we have an in-house grabadlax, which is the marinated salmon from Scandinavia, from Sweden, I think, which we marinate in-house here, and it's got mustard spread over it and dill and so on. That is absolutely delicious. We serve that also with a rocket salad and citrus segments and rose peppercorns, and also our granary toast arrives with that. Now, the cockles dish. One of our customers was the manager of one of the fish landing companies in Brixham, and very therefore knowledgeable about crabs and cockles and anything that comes out of the sea. And I was very happy to say that his wife was extremely enamoured with our cockle dish, because you don't often see this on a menu. We have a very interesting sauce with the cockles, which is a sauce that I bumped into more or less by accident some years ago. And my kids drink this by the spoonful. It's a delicious sauce, and it's based on a creamed smoked cod's roe, and with cockles and bacon. This is a Welsh combination. Typical Welsh breakfast, if you live by the sea in a farmhouse, would be cockles and bacon, so I'm told. So bacon on a little salad, again with micro herbs and so on, and again with the ubiquitous granary toast. But it's a different take on cockles, this humble thing that we have with a little wooden piercy thing at the seaside with some sharp vinegar. So this is not sharp vinegar, but it's a very delicate combination, and it's going down very well. Okay, so that's the cockles. You could have a poached duck egg on toasted brioche with wild mushrooms. That's for those who don't want to eat meat or fish. We do a spit-roasted baby chicken, which is poached in dashi, which some people would know is a kind of Japanese broth, which originates from nori seaweed and bonito fish flakes. It's an absolutely delicious thing. I'm going to drop a name here. Heston Blumenthal has a whole chapter on these Japanese flavors in the book of his that I bought anyway, which is what they call the umami flavors, the fifth taste, the fifth taste umami. And dashi or miso soup and so on. I mean, you can get these things in the supermarkets. Anyway, we poach our baby chicken in dashi, and then it gets rubbed with wild mushroom and seaweed and black pepper and so on, and put on the spit, and that is spit roasted, and that would be served again with a rocket and micro herb salad with parmesan. A little bit lower down the list, we've got a pan-seared pigeon breast with a plum puree and a mini potato rosti with pancetta crisp, that is wonderful thin Italian bacon. And that has a red wine sauce, or a red wine reduction on the pigeon breast. And for vegetarians, this again as a starter, we have a warmed goat's cheese with a rocket and pine nuts and orange segments with a balsamic glaze. So that's our range of starters at the moment.
Well, that sounds pretty good. I tell you what, the UK palate has got considerably more sophisticated since we all thought chicken Kiev was a pretty smart idea, hasn't it, really?
You're absolutely right, and television's got a lot to do with it.
It's great, isn't it?
And also no smoking in pubs, which meant pubs had to turn to food, which meant gastropubs, as they tried to outdo each other and so on, and a whole host of books being published and celebrity chefs and so on. I mean, the French now have to concede that there is an important food scene in Britain. I mean, they hate this idea because they think we're genetically incapable of anything to do with food, you see. But they do. We have French people coming into our restaurant.
Well, that's praise indeed.
I very much enjoy serving our food to them.
Brilliant. Listen, tell us exactly where you are. So if we want to come and find you, tell us where you are.
Right. We are in St Mary Church, and we are opposite the florist. We're at the bottom end of the precinct in St Mary Church. So I would say that's about 5 premises up from the co-op, down by the War Memorial, I think it is, down at the bottom. Mm-hmm. Yes, our logo is a flying boat.
Right.
Hence the Silver Goose. But the name Silver Goose was chosen because of the word goose, because we want to be the only restaurant that we certainly know of, and an internet search. I'd be very interested to know if anybody can find another restaurant in Britain serving goose throughout the year. Okay,
right.
So we wanted to have goose in our name, and Howard Hughes' great big flying boat was called the Spruce Goose. There was another one called the Short Calcutta, which was the first all-metal flying boat, which was referred to as the Silver Goose, and basically that's our logo. My mum was in the WAF during the war and worked on Catalinas down at Plymouth and so on, so I've had a long love affair with flying boats.
Fantastic. Listen, Andrew, it's suddenly everyone has come into the studio thinking there were samples on offer. Sadly, it's not the case. But listen, thank you so much for being our account of the week this week. And we look forward to coming in and trying goose all year round.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Featured accounts with the Works Torbay. Flexible, affordable workspace. A new way of working and doing business.
An education, not just a culinary evening, but an education in food, I think it's fair to say. It's 18 minutes past 8 o'clock. It is the TorbayHour radio show. Hi, it's Rick here. Martin's in the studio. We've got a special guest coming. More on him a little bit later on. What is happening on the Twitter feed tonight?
It is so busy tonight. It is seriously busy. My pen is flying across this page at the minute. At Welly's Talkie, they've been on. It's National Breakfast Week. How did we miss this?
I'm shocked and stunned. Normally, Welly's is my Saturday morning brekkie with my daughter, actually, but obviously that's gone out the window in breakfast week.
Then you need to get there. Well, Tuesday to Friday, you got 50% off your. So
sadly, I have a job.
Yes. If it's not you want to feed, it's your dog. At QP Nutrition, they've got 12 kilos of dry dog food at the moment. They'll deliver that for 30 quid, so that's not bad at all. The Groom Room, they're posting pics of all their barber cuts and everything else like that. They're good people to follow, especially if you want to make yourself look good. I don't go there, and that's why I look like this. Yeah. Grandpa Frank's, they're on. They've got new toppings coming this season, so if there's any preferences, then let them know. For your hot... No, if I call them hot dogs, they're going to shout at me. For your Franks.
Frank's okay.
sausages, yep. South Devon College, they're promoting their GCSE courses. There's more than you think, apparently. I wonder if there's a GCSE in social media yet.
I'm sure there probably is.
If there isn't, there will be one soon, won't there?
If you can do one in Klingon, then I'm sure you can in social media.
I can't even start to do Klingon, so I'm not even going to go there. @_Winfields, they're promoting their estate agent videos, so that's something you can have a watch of after the hour. And Nigel Hicks Photography, they're now on Instagram. I retweeted one of his pics a minute ago on my personal account. It's incredible, one of his pictures he's just put. So give him a follow on Twitter and give him a follow on Instagram as well.
I will do that. Keep them coming this evening. We're here through until 9 o'clock. That's when the Torbay Hour finishes. We've still got the 140-second pitch to come. It's time, though, for a bit of a musical break. This one's from Adam Isaac. Now, he came in just before Christmas and was telling us there's a whole load of new music on the way from him. He wanted us to test the new song, so tell us what you think of this. This is a real rough recording. It's not the final version. It's called This Game.
So you're fascinated by the Mona Lisa, or maybe that's just what you say. I don't appreciate this wandering around the houses, but we'll still do it anyway. It's in your hands, I know you're gonna put it down. You got the ace of spades, screwing over everybody in the house. Have you got no shame? Ooh, this game we're playing. Ooh, for money now you're changing. Ooh, this game we're playing. When we started it was funny, now it's just dangerous. So you think that you can throw me on the edge? Maybe I'll come back later on. 1 minute you're my friend and now you're in my face. This is too much for me to take. It's in your hands, I know you're gonna put it down. You got the ace of spades, screwing over everybody in the house. Have you got no shame? Ooh, this game we're playing. Ooh, for money now you're changing. Ooh, this game we're playing. When we started it was funny, now it's just dangerous. Ooh, this game we're playing. Ooh, for money now you're changing. Ooh, this game we're playing. When we started it was fun and now it's just dangerous. Ooh, this game we're playing. Ooh, for money now you're changing. Ooh, this game we're playing. When we started it was fun and now it's just dangerous. Ooh, this game we're playing. Ooh, for money now you're changing. Ooh, this game we're playing. When we started it was fun and now it's just dangerous.
Torbay Hour radio show, the new tune. Well, it's not the new tune, it's a kind of unreleased exclusive from Adam Isaac. It's called This Game. What do you think of that? Tell Adam. Get onto the Twitter feed. Tell him, because that will influence what he does with his music from now on, which is very exciting. It's 25 minutes past 8 o'clock, the Torbay Hour radio show. Martin's looking at 4.5 minutes past.
I'm just looking at it and going, how the hell has it got to that time already?
I know, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Still got the 140-second pitch on the way. We got a guest in the studio as well. I'd like to welcome to the Torbay Hour radio show, Mark Thompson. Now, Mark, you might well have seen on the telly, you might have heard him on the radio. You're a political commentator and analyst.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, really, because it's actually a sort of a sideline for me. I have a kind of a normal day job, but then I find myself evenings and weekends and sometimes other times, popping up on the radio and occasionally television to do political commentary, because basically I'm a political geek. I've always been interested in politics, right, since I was a kid. And I was a member of the Lib Dems until a couple of years ago, but I kind of became a little bit disillusioned with them and with a little bit with politics in general and kind of stepped back from that. And yeah, I started blogging a few years ago, back in 2008, and I did a blog post in 2009 that seemed to capture people's imagination. It was around the time of the expenses scandal, and I spotted that there was actually a link, there was a correlation between the safety of an MP's seat and the likelihood of them having been involved in the scandal. So basically, the safer your seat, the more likely you were to have been fiddling.
Oh, right.
No one else had spotted this. And because I'm a bit of a campaigner for electoral reform as well, I was quite pleased I'd spotted this. And that got picked up, it got reported. And then I got invited onto Radio 4 to More or Less. Tim Harford interviewed me about my methodology, which wasn't particularly statistically sound, I have to be honest. And obviously,
I noticed it in the pub reading the paper.
But that got me noticed, and then from there, I've kind of been invited onto various radio stations and written for the New Statesman Online, the Independent, and various other online publications as well. And I maintain my own blog as well, and I do a podcast as well called The House of Comments, where I invite guests from the world of politics and journalism on to talk about the issues from the previous week. So
now I get this is a kind of logical extension. We've been talking over the past, sort of 7 or 8 months now, about social media, and podcasting is one area which we've not really touched. We've done the Facebook, obviously Twitter, Instagram, a whole load of things which I've never even heard of. But podcasting is an interesting extension to that, and it opens up the world of broadcasting literally to someone with a laptop, doesn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean, literally. My podcast has gone through several generations now. It's into its third kind of manifestation. And initially, it was me and a chap called Stuart Sharp, who was just a political activist who I happen to know. I'd only met him once. And when we met up at Lib Dem conference in 2009, he just said, why don't we do a podcast? He was fairly politically neutral. I was a Lib, just used to invite guests on. And I was amazed at the quality and the calibre of the people we were getting on. We were getting MPs on. We had Lynn Featherstone on, who's now a government minister. We had Tom Harris, who was a backbench Labour MP, who was pretty influential within the party, and all kinds of journalists, people from The Spectator, Alex Massey, we've had on. We've had all kinds of people on, and also the listenership. Some of the podcasts that we did were getting thousands and thousands of downloads, and it's literally just me in my bedroom recording it over Skype using, a little recording plugin. So the quality, isn't absolutely tip-top, we've got to be honest, but in terms of sound quality, but in terms of, what we're talking about and the guests that we have on and the issues that we cover, and it was getting a bit of a cult following amongst politicos. I know that there were quite senior people within all the main political parties who were regular listeners, and to have that level of maybe influence is the wrong word, but certainly to be being listened to by people, like the Chief of Staff to David Cameron and, people like that. And I remember speaking to people at Lib Dem conference and finding that they listened to the podcast and being really surprised, because I hadn't realised what kind of level of penetration it had. But as you said, Rick, it's a complete democratisation of the broadcasting space. Anyone can do it. Well, anyone who's got a computer and an internet connection can do it. Skype's free. Microphones are £5 or £10 on Amazon. You can get it set up, you can get it installed, and you've just got to have an idea and go for it. And some of the podcasts that I listen to are just done by amateurs, who've had an idea and who've decided, that they want to do something. There's a podcast called Answer Me This. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And that was just two people. Admittedly, I think they were reasonably well connected within the media to start with. However, they just had an idea, and it's just people sending questions, and they try and answer them in a humorous, funny, interesting way. Ollie Mann has managed to launch a broadcasting career out of that. And Helen Zaltzman, I keep seeing her on television and popping up on the radio. People can launch careers now in the media based upon, what they just record in their bedrooms or their front room. And you don't have to even launch a career out of it. It's just good fun to do.
Yeah. And I guess with your other hat, or one of your other hats as a political analyst, we're about to enter possibly the most interesting run-up to an election in this country in, certainly living memory.
I think it is going to be the most interesting election in my living memory. And I just turned 40 last year. And like I say, I've been obsessed with politics since I was a kid. So I can remember a lot of elections. And I can't remember one that was as uncertain as this one. I think the 2010 election, it was pretty clear, if you'd have been watching the polls and believing the polls, that it was likely to be a hung parliament, but I don't think anyone really believed that it was going to be. I think in the end, most people, most politicos thought, in the end, Cameron will just squeak a majority, because that's what happens in this country. We don't really have coalitions. And of course, in the end, that didn't happen. And I think with this election, people are now flipping the other way and are thinking that it's almost certainly going to be a coalition or a hung parliament. I agree, I think it will be a hung parliament, but exactly what makeup that parliament is going to be. I mean, you've got the two main parties, Labour and Conservative, who are regularly polling around 30 or sometimes less, sometimes slightly more. But between them, they're struggling to get even, 2/3 of the votes.
But there's nothing really, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because in a way it's checks and balances built in, which wouldn't be if there was a majority parliament.
I mean, for me personally, as an advocate of electoral reform, I absolutely agree with that sentiment. But my point is that this country and its body politic is not used to that. It really isn't used to coalitions. I mean, the coalition that was formed in 2010 is the first time that had happened since the war, a formal coalition. I mean, we had a couple of minority governments during the 70s, and we had the Lib-Lab Pact at the end of the 70s. But formal coalitions, this country just is not used to them. And you've seen, I mean, the Lib Dems have been absolutely vilified for what they've done in government, because they're perceived to have betrayed their principles. And I was a member, and I think in some ways they have betrayed some of their principles. But the truth is, if it's a coalition government, you have to compromise. And I think, the media and reporting in this country doesn't seem to understand that. It's like, well, this was in your manifesto, but you haven't done it in government, therefore it's a betrayal. And a lot of other countries, it would seem very strange to treat a party like that, because countries that have more proportional systems where coalitions are the norm understand that you have to have compromises, and that just because it says something in your manifesto isn't necessarily going to translate into government when you're in there, because you have to make compromises. But I think in terms of what's likely to happen with this election, obviously we've got the rise of UKIP, and we could see something very strange with UKIP in that they're polling in the mid-teens, sometimes 20 or above. I don't think they'll get that level, but they could easily get 11, 12, 13%, and they might out of that only get 1 or 2 MPs. Which would be crazy. They're going to have had more than 10% of the vote, and they'll only get, less than 1% or even 0.5% of the MPs.
But that's the nature of the system.
Well, it is the nature of the system, but I think even people who maybe don't pay that much attention ordinarily will start to think that can't be right, because the Lib Dems get 20 or 30 MPs on 5 or 6% or 7%, just because they have some high levels of concentration, such as North Devon, some other areas in the southwest areas, in Scotland areas, in Norfolk. And so the current electoral system really punishes parties that have quite evenly spread support around the country, as UKIP sort of does. I mean, it has a couple of heartland areas, but basically they have a fairly, they might get 5, 10, 12% in terms of polls across the country. Well, that's deadly if you've got a first-past-the-post system, because what you really want to do is be like the SNP, be really, really popular in one specific geographical part of the country, and pile up your votes there, and then you'll get your 20 or 30 seats that you need to actually, have some kind of influence in the House of Commons.
But the UKIP kind of heartland really is the Essex, Kent, South East area, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I was doing some stuff on Radio Kent. I was actually on air with them overnight during the Rochester and Stroud by-election. You could definitely see that they were very strong in that area. There were a number of UKIP people in the room, not just obviously Mark Reckless, who was elected. They're talking about in Kent possibly getting 2, possibly 3 MPs, depending on how a few things fall. And obviously, Nigel Farage is trying to get a seat in Essex as well. That probably is what you would term their heartland. But even there, they're going to struggle to get more than a handful. There are other areas of the country where they're just going to completely fail to get any MPs or have any real chance of getting them. And you're seeing a surge with the Greens. Well, the Greens have only got 1 MP at the moment. You're seeing a bit of a collapse of the Lib Dems, but because of the historic reasons and because they have a lot of MPs who are kind of embedded within their constituencies. I think the Conservative commentator Tim Montgomery once described the Lib Dems as the bindweed of politics. Once they get in somewhere, you really struggle to get them out because they dig in. You've got people like Norman Lamb in North Norfolk, Tim Farron in Cumbria. They've got very, very, very strong ground operations. Even a political earthquake probably wouldn't shift them, because they pound the pavements, they make themselves a very well-known local campaigner.
But this is part of the, for someone who's not politically motivated, this is part of the, people always think that they're voting for David Cameron, Nick Clegg or whoever, whereas actually they're voting for their local MP, aren't they? And some local MPs, and I think this is where the Lib Dems are very good, is that they have very strong local candidates who embrace themselves into the local community, are a part of the fabric of the way that community works. That's what people are voting for.
Well, that's right, and that is the basis of our electoral system. I mean, we were just talking about the fact that the percentage of votes cast across the country don't necessarily translate into seats, and that's the reason, because you are voting for a local MP. And yeah, you do get, I mean, the Lib Dems are particularly well renowned for digging in locally, but I have started to spot UKIP candidates doing the same sort of thing. And also what you have with UKIP is that because they did very, very well in the council elections last year, they've now got a load of elected councillors right across the country in different places, and that's a really good starting point to build from. I think, although they might not get many seats at the next election, what you might well see is that they'll have a lot of second places, and a lot of good second places, a lot of close second places. That's a really strong, powerful position to build on for next time, because that's always what the Lib Dems used to do. They would, Paddy Ashdown followed this. This blueprint in his constituency when he was first trying to win it. I think he arrived there in 1976 in Yeovil, and he had a 3-election strategy. So there was the election in 1979, and he didn't manage to get in. But then in 1983, he actually did manage to win. He managed to do it in 2. And the way he did it was he just dug in. He set up a surgery, even though he wasn't the MP, and he would deal with constituents' complaints. He just became a very, very well-known person. And over those 7 years, he was the go-to person, politically. And his Conservative opponent just couldn't match that ground operation. Probably didn't have the same level of determination, to be honest. I mean, Paddy Ashdown is a pretty, diligent, feisty character. But that's what it kind of takes. It takes people like that. And like I say, it isn't just the Lib Dems. The parties like the Tories and Labour can kind of take quite a lot of seats for granted, and I think they do.
But there's also, Lord Ashdown, as he is now, it was a politician who was motivated because of what was going on locally, as opposed to a career politician, which is a young guy who's got a sharp suit and decides he wants a career in politics.
Well, that's exactly right. And, we see this, you see it in the main parties, precisely because they have all these safe seats. So you have people, actually, you're in the crazy situation now with the 3 leaders of the 3 main parties in Parliament at the moment, Ed Miliband, David Cameron and Nick Clegg, all got where they are because they were special advisors to other politicians earlier in their career. None of them have really had a proper job in that respect. They've all always been either in politics. And in the case of David Cameron, he worked for a television company for a little while, for Carlton TV. But that's sort of his job because it's very closely linked to the media. And really, he was only doing that to mark time for a few years while he found a safe seat, which he was able to in 2001. And there are lots of people on the front benches of both Labour and the Conservatives who've come up that way. And I think people are starting to get very disillusioned with that. It's one of the reasons why people like Nigel Farage are so popular, because they can play on that idea that, you've got all these political insiders, the political class as they're referred to, as I think Peter Oborne, the journalist, coined that phrase. He wrote a very good book a few years ago called The Triumph of the Political Class. Which goes into a lot of detail about how, you have all these people and they're in politics, but then they might make a sideways move into the media and, maybe into kind of academia for a few years, teaching politics somewhere, but then they'll be back again. And there's a lot of nepotism as well in that, I think in the Labour shadow cabinet, you've got a number of either married couples, brothers and sisters, people who are related to other politicians. It's almost like a kind of secret baton that's passed on between people with...
Well, it's historically, the Kennedys did it fairly well in the States.
Yep.
And the Bushes, in fact.
Well, and we may well see in 2016 Clinton running against a Bush again. It could be Hillary Clinton versus Jeb Bush. We're not the only country that suffers from that.
Right, we'll talk more politics in a second. I can't believe where the hour's going. Let's do one of these.
The 140-second pitch. Sponsored by Torbay Discount Card. Torbay's community discount card.
Okay, the 140-second pitch. We take the idea of the 140 characters on Twitter. You have 140 seconds to tell us about your business. Will tonight's candidate please stand up?
A wedding should be the most wonderful day of your life, an occasion for celebration and sharing your joy with friends and family. However, there are often such high expectations and pressure to make everything perfect that costs can rapidly spiral out of control. We at Millie and Me have joined with the Brixham Youth Inquiry Service to stage a unique wedding fair. We don't believe that businesses should inflate their prices simply because somebody is getting married. A simple buffet or bouquet of flowers shouldn't cost twice the price for a wedding than it would for any other occasion. We have invited local businesses to showcase their products and services at our wedding fair with an emphasis on fair and ethical prices. We also plan to demonstrate how you can save money by getting creative with workshops showing how to make your own wedding invitations, table decorations and even bouquet. Our catwalk show will feature pre-lunch wedding and bridesmaid dresses, and throughout the day we'll have musical performances from local musicians. The Edge Cafe will be serving refreshments including cakes, sandwiches, quiches and tarts made by local wedding caterers, so you really can try before you buy. Our wedding fair takes place at the Edge, a beautiful converted church on Bolton Street, Brixham, on Sunday the 1st of March between 10 and 4. So if you're planning a wedding or know somebody who is, come along and see what our local area has to offer. There are still a few stalls left to hire, so if you're a local business who would like to exhibit, contact me at Millie and Me. You can email me or inbox me on Twitter or phone 01803 858 488. Our aim isn't to present how to organise a low-cost wedding, but to demonstrate that couples should be able to organise a wedding within their budget, choosing to prioritise their spending and saving money where possible. We want to showcase local independent businesses and inspire prospective brides and grooms to follow their dreams and imagination instead of having their plans dictated by glossy wedding magazines and expensive trends.
She had a few seconds left there, but it's okay.
Always a disappointment is Sophie. Love her lots.
Actually, we need to check in with her. The tweet up is carrying on. We need to find out what's going on.
Yeah, we'll give her a call.
We'll do that soon. Yes, it's just after 20 to 9. What's going on Twitter tonight?
Lots of love for the Silver Goose. Lots of people drooling over their phones. Also a lot of money for... money? A lot of love for Adam Isaac's song.
Good. Adam will be pleased.
AC Prince says it's a bit Foo Fighter-esque.
All right, okay. I know he was going to be a bit more kind of not upbeat, but you know what I mean, a bit
rockier.
more aggressive, rockier.
Yeah. Discover Hannah's, they're promoting their Easter Adventure Club already because the spaces are filling up. So if you're looking for somewhere to put the children over Easter, then get in touch with those. At _ the Lost Sound, they've got a benefit gig for at THF charity. That's on the February the 7th. So give them a follow, find out more about that. Torbay Gardener, Torbay _ Gardener, he's offering his services for tidying up for spring. Spring's coming.
I can't believe it.
The winter's nearly ended. Come on.
Right.
At Love Lammy, they've got a new range of bags coming out and they're looking for stockists. I'm going to have to do a whole section on new followers because I need tonight.
Okay, hold that thought. I'm going to play a song. We're going to check in with the tweet up quickly. Want to talk to Mark Moore. We might have to do a Torbay 2 hours tonight. You never know. I got one more song right. Earlier on, I asked if you wanted to get songs played. Ross Mayhew, who's recorded at the Music Mill loads of times, got in touch and said, can we play a song? Now, he recorded this with the guys from Young Devon, and if you're not familiar with their work, they're a charity that support young people in Devon. They came into the studio and recorded this. It's called It's Good to Be Here.
I was walking down the street, the blues were dragging my feet, so I stopped to think a while, and I found a reason to smile. You see, I realize it's a gift, this life. Every day I give thanks to the fact I'm here now. It's good to be here. It's good to be here. Sing it loud and clear. It's good to be here. So next time you're feeling low, just try to let it go. Remember how lucky you are to view the sun and stars. Give a smile, you'll get one back. Be kind, get kindness back. Be the person you wish to meet, walking down the street. It's good to be here, it's good to be here, singing loud and clear, it's good to be here. Life can sometimes be sad, that is kinda how it goes, but it's a long, long road, so please don't lose hope. It's good to be here, it's good to be here, singing loud and clear, it's good to be here, it's good to be here, it's good to be here, singing loud and clear, it's good to be here, it's good to be here, it's good to be here, singing loud and clear, it's good to be here, it's good to be here, it's good to be here, singing loud and clear, it's good to be here, it's good to be here, it's good to be here, singing loud and clear, it's good to be here.
It's good to be here from Ross Mayhew and the Evolve Band, the crew at Young Devon. Brilliant. Just after 8:45 right now, and as you well know, there is a tweet up going on at Dot's Pantry in Torquay. We have our roving reporter, never a disappointment. Sophie's there. Sophie.
Oh, yeah, you say that now. You're all right, Rick. It's that Martin. I'm not keen
Oh,
on
you're
him.
going to worry about him, and you really have. Yeah.
He doesn't say that when I bring him cake.
No, I'm sure he doesn't.
I do at the minute because I'm off the cake.
No.
Love you really. I had to upset someone. It's usually my
It's all
wife.
right saying
So
that. It's all right saying that all the way from Newton Abbot, isn't it?
Anyway, listen, what's going on at Dot's Pantry?
Oh, it's been fantastic here this evening. I've been here since 6 o'clock. I was here for the Torbay Social Media Cafe, first of all, for 2 hours, learning all about using video to promote your businesses, which is really interesting. I've had lots of lovely coffee and cake from Dot's Pantry. Yeah, so it's been very good.
If you've been talking video, I bet you Nick Ellison's involved somewhere.
He is, yeah. He's been bringing lots of toys to show us all, including drones. He's got his own recording and videoing studio set up downstairs, and we've all been going down having a go. So in the next few weeks, you'll be able to see short video clips from lots of us here this evening.
Now, he was in the studio a few weeks ago talking about the value of video and the sort of strengths it adds to websites and things like that. So are we expecting now videos on everybody's website?
Well, I'd like to think so. I think quite a few of us are a little bit scared still about getting in front of the camera, but what was really good tonight is that we all had a go and went down there, and we didn't have too much time to worry about it. They thrust us in front of the camera, but it's really good fun.
Thrusting is always good.
Would you like to have a chat with Nick while I stand here blushing?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, here he is.
So, Nick, how many budding TV celebrities?
Sorry, how many people went down to the studio? Oh, at least 10, 12 people must have gone down, yeah.
Excellent. So have you managed to change people's or sort of convince them that video is the way forward on their sites?
Yeah, I think some of them was their first time on camera, yeah, so I think they might have enjoyed it. Yeah, we might be seeing some of them create their own video. Fingers crossed.
So, okay, how many people are down there at the tweet up tonight?
There's only 6 of us left, but there was quite a few. They've just gone, that's why. I just got late, that's all.
Fair enough. No, the pubs are open. Right, I rushed home to catch the listen again feature. Yeah, that's brilliant. All right, brilliant. So, Nick, tell us again how we get in touch with you to find out about video on websites.
Oh, okay, so you can check out our site at highriseproductions.com. Or if anyone wants to come and chat about the social media stuff, you can find us on Facebook at the Torbay Social Media Cafe.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nick. We'll get you in the studio again soon.
Cool, lovely. Thanks
Brilliant.
a lot.
It's 10 to 9. It is the TorbayHour radio show with the Babacom Inn and everything that they do at the Babacom Inn, which could be a party night, it could be just going down and having a great meal, it could be sitting in the garden or whatever. Also in the studio tonight, we've got Mark Thompson. Mark is a political analyst, a podcaster of some note, noted by senior politicians. Have you ever tried to get in touch with David Cameron in a kind of hoax call kind of way that's happened?
No, I was just watching on the television here, actually. They were harking back to when it happened to Tony Blair in 1998. It was.
I remember that. Steve Penk getting in touch.
It was Steve Penk. Well, actually, it was John Culshaw when no one really knew John Culshaw was, but it was on the Steve Penk show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he managed to get through to Blair. No, I've not mentioned that. I did ask David Cameron a question once at a Cameron Direct event. He didn't really answer it. He sort of
He didn't know who you were.
Well, he didn't at that point, I wasn't very well known then, to be honest, Rick.
I have to say, if you don't know who Mark is, have a look at the Twitter feed tonight. You can see the absolutely stunning T-shirt that he's wearing. And he's not as scary. He's kind of looking intimidating in the picture, isn't he?
Yeah, but it was a complete geek out a minute ago. You're going on about his T-shirt. He's going on about your phone cover. I kind of felt left out.
Well, I'm not surprised.
Oh, your phone cover's fantastic, Rick.
No way.
You took the photo. It looks like a cassette, which for anyone under 20 is how we used to listen to music.
Some of us still do. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk politics while we've got you here. So, impending general election, what's likely to happen to the political map in the southwest, and how is that going to affect certainly Torbay in particular?
I don't necessarily think there's going to be a huge change in this area. I think obviously you've got several Tory MPs, you've got a couple of Lib Dems, you've got Ben Bradshaw for Labour, and I don't think there's going to be that much change. I think there is a suspicion that Nick Harvey in North Devon might lose his seat. There was some polling done recently of marginal constituencies, and I think his was the closest, in that he was slated to actually lose by 1%. But quite a lot of commentators think that in the end that probably won't happen. There is quite a strong UKIP vote in North Devon. That's actually where I live. I had one of his leaflets through the other day, and it was quite notable that it just had Nick Harvey, local campaigner, and there was like yellow writing, but there was no Lib Dem logo or anything like that.
Okay.
So this is what candidates do when the party leadership is not very popular. They suddenly become a really strong local campaigner, in quotes.
As opposed to having their arm around the leader.
Well, exactly. So in 2010, with the Nick Clegg surge, I'm sure Clegg would have been plastered, and probably Vince Cable as well, would have been plastered all over Nick Harvey's leaflets. Now, completely different story.
Now, the thing that made all the difference for Nick Clegg back then was the television debate, because he suddenly came over as Mr. Nice Guy, and he made the other two just look a bit like they were bickering at each other.
Yeah.
This time, there's talk that David Cameron won't take part in those debates on the pretext that it's because, well, the Greens won't be there, but probably because he thinks he's on a bit of a sticky wicket.
Yes, I think pretext is the correct word. He's just trying to find any excuse to wriggle out of them, and I think he's shot himself in the foot now, because he tried to use the excuse of, well, the Greens aren't going to be involved. So the broadcasters have come up with what I think is an actually preposterous suggestion, which is that they're going to have 2 debates with 7 people and then 1 debate with 2. So the final debate will be Cameron and Miliband. How are you going to get any kind of sensible, coherent debate out of 7 people? I just can't see how it's going to happen, especially when a couple of those people are going to be, Nigel Farage and Nicola Sturgeon, who are, they've got very kind of populist tunes to play. And certainly in the case of Farage, I mean, he's never really going to be tested on any of it, so he can just say whatever he wants. We saw it when he faced off against Clegg during the Euro elections. Clegg got absolutely slaughtered, not necessarily because what Clegg was saying wasn't sensible and in some cases, technically correct, but because, Farage can just, play the populist card all the time. And I think that's actually the main reason why Cameron doesn't want to do it, not because he's scared of Miliband, although he probably doesn't want to give Miliband the equality of him being on the same platform. He's more scared that Farage will just run rings around him and can say and promise things that Cameron simply can't.
But this is a whole change in the way that politics happens in this country, isn't it? Because several years ago, you would have never seen a James Callaghan or someone like that standing up doing a debate on TV, because they weren't media friendly. They didn't know how to play the camera. They didn't know. And Nick Clegg's great trick in the last round was looking straight into the camera and actually engaging with people. That kind of media training hasn't happened before, has it?
Clegg did shine because he did that. He did it in the first debate, and then you notice that the others did it in the second and third debate. So obviously the media handlers had very quickly cottoned on. But that's not rocket science. I mean, if you're on television, look at the camera. When you're speaking to the audience at home directly. And also, Clegg did this trick of, just writing down the name of the person that had asked the question in the audience, who was then able to say, well, Janet, what I would like to say to that, and kind of, he did that several times, and in the end it started to look a bit old to me. But, just a few little tricks, and it did make... I think the main thing with Clegg is that he seemed to be like an insurgent who'd come from nowhere. The truth is, he's been around in politics for, 20-odd years. But just because of the low profile that the Lib Dems had he hadn't had much coverage, and he was able to exploit that. But I think, having 7 people on stage at the same time, I don't know how much time are they going to get each? 10 minutes, 12 minutes?
We've got to do it as a buzz around, like in QI, and play general ignorance.
Well, it's going to be like an episode of 15 to 1. Are they going to get 3 lives, and when they get 3 things that get booed, then they get buzzed off? I mean, maybe that would make it more interesting.
I think it would. Oh yeah, just do it X Factor style with a phone-in vote and just boot one off in each round. It'd be fine.
If William G. Stewart's still available, then maybe he can host it.
You never know. So, Adrian Sanders is one of those MPs who is firmly entrenched, really, in Torbay, isn't it? There's no chance of any change in Torbay.
I think he's one of those bindweed politicians. I think he'll hold on, quite well, despite the fact that even if the Lib Dem vote drops to... Well, they got 23% at the previous general election, but even if it drops to, 13, 10, I don't think it'll drop below that, to be honest, even though you're seeing some polls at 6%. I think they will bounce back up as they get closer to the election. But even if, they lose half the vote, MPs like Adrian Sanders will be fine, just because they have such a strong ground operation.
Brilliant. What's going on Twitter tonight then, Martin? What do we got?
Lots and lots of things. Right, so here we go. New people to follow. At Acacia_training. At photography_JMJ, at Jonathan_Mark1, at BMAD Devon. They're on tonight. They're promoting themselves. At Torbay Trojans, they're back in training. At Devon's Kriegley, they've been on tonight. Loads of new people on tonight. It's I think everyone's running about half hour behind, and we're not the only one doing a Torbay 2 hour. Also, James is reminding everyone that you got less than a week to get your tax returns in, so
oh dear,
a lot of late nights for a few people. Clazer_shoot, I think they're new as well tonight. They're promoting their laser clay pigeon shooting.
Right,
done that before. That's good. That
is good fun. Definitely, we like that. So there we go. We're almost there. I can't. Just, these hours go so quick. If you fancy being involved next week by doing a 140-second pitch, then obviously get in touch. The contact details are...
at Torbay_hour or hashtag TorbayHour, or you can get us on the email torbayhour@gmail.com.
And, of course, if you fancy being a featured account, the same drill.
Indeed.
Easy as that. Mark, thanks for popping in. I know you were kind of dragged in because you happened to be wandering around the building at the time, but that's somehow the way these things work, isn't it?
I've had that before, to be honest, with radio stuff.
Well, it's the nature of the game,
exactly,
I can assure you. It's a very immediate
It's been great
thing.
fun. Thanks for having me on.
Well, you must come back as well. I think that there's all kinds of restrictions. We're not allowed to do various things in the sort of close run-up to the elections, are there? Afterwards, you must come back in and tell us what the fallout is, I guess, really.
Absolutely.
It's going to be an interesting time, it really is. So there we go. If you've got any comments on the show, if you'd like to get in touch during the week, you can do that. Also, if you're a local musician, we didn't really say tonight, but all the music we play on the show is from local musicians, either ones that have recorded here at the Music Mill or that are definitely from Devon. If you're a musician, you'd like to get some airplay to your stuff, maybe you'd like some comments like Adam Isaacs had tonight, which have been overwhelmingly positive, which is great. He'll be very pleased. Get in touch, send us your tracks. Again, send us a message if you're using Dropbox or WeTransfer or something. Send us all the details, we can get your songs on. And you never know, we could be playing your music on the show next week. Dear, oh dear. Well, do you know, this hour has gone one of the quickest we've ever had, I think.
I'll be interested to see the figures on this one. Yeah, it's been absolutely crazy tonight.
My
many
goodness.
people not being able to keep up, so many new people coming in, so many people coming back again. So, hello everybody, it's lovely having you.
Don't forget as well the Listen Again facility, so maybe you've just got back in after being at the Tweet Up tonight, learning how to stand in front of a TV camera and do all that kind of stuff. Never catch me doing that. Then you can listen again. The YouTube channel's there. You can listen to tonight's show. You can also listen to all the previous ones so far. So if you want advice about tax returns, we've got accountants, there's lawyers there, police giving crime prevention advice, and Sergeant Shep's back because there was that digital crime prevention campaign that they were just starting, and there was going to be some new and exciting news, wasn't there?
Sheps, get in touch.
Sheps, we need to hear from you. We'll get you back in a few weeks' time as well. There you go, that's about it from us. It's coming up to 9 o'clock, which means it is the end for another week of the TorbayHour radio show. Listen again online and make sure you've set it in as a preset. You can listen via the TuneIn Radio app. Of course, you can listen via the Music Mills website as well. Loads of ways to stay in touch, get in touch and talk and tweet business every Monday night between 8 and 9 o'clock. Have a great week.
The TorbayHour Radio Show, brought to you by the Babacom Inn Christmas Party Nights.